morning. It is the 1st of January 2019. I am standing in the post-New Year's Eve wasteland that is Times Square. It's sort of my tradition to get up on New Year's morning and take a little walk into Times Square. Usually it's a lot more dead than this. For some reason there's quite a lot of activity going on this morning. Maybe I'm a bit late, I don't know. So it's a little hard to believe that there were a million people standing here last night in the freezing rain for about 14 hours. You couldn't pay me enough to do that, but the next morning is the time to come if you're ever in New York for New Year's Eve. Welcome to the first of these little Patreon vlogish things. I'm not going to do the whole thing here just because this is very strange that people are looking at me whilst I'm doing this. So I'm going to go walk back home now that I have been here and seen this, and make myself a cup of tea, and we shall sit down and have a little chat. I'm back now in the warmth of my cozy little apartment. I've got my cup of tea and my shawl, which I have refused to take off because it's still a bit cold. Welcome to my first little update vlog thing around here. So amongst the additional video content that I have promised to produce around here, I thought I would just take a moment at the beginning of each month to just do a little wrap-up review of the things that I accomplished in the past month, sort of give you a little realistic analysis of the projects that I completed in the last month, just because I know what you see on video is just my edited together process journey, but oftentimes there are things that I cut out just for time, and there are things that I learn and realizations that I come to realize later on in the process or after it's been completed, and so maybe it would just be fun and of interest to discuss that sort of thing, and also to discuss some of my plans for the coming month, just because now I feel like you are part of this journey and you should be able to come along on the things that I'm hoping to achieve, planning to achieve. Obviously, because I work by hand and because things are very slow when you work by hand, I don't complete masses of projects every month. Usually it's just like I've got one project per month, or, you know, one bigger project that happens over the course of a month and a half or two, or possibly 3. So it's not going to be a huge, long project haul type thing of all of the things that I'm planning to accomplish in the month. It will just be, you know, what's the project that I'm focusing on, what are some of the topics that I'm researching and discussing and investigating, and possibly new skills that I'm hoping to learn or explore. And so hopefully that will be something of interest, and maybe we can start having some conversations down in the comments or over on the Discord perhaps, because I don't want this to be just about me. I think you guys should get into the conversation as well and discuss what you're hoping to do each month and keep you motivated, keep you sewing, keep you inspired, keep you crafting, whatever it is that you are doing over here. So yeah, hopefully these videos will just pose as a little monthly prod of motivation of, here's the things that I'm doing and you should join me too if you want. You don't have to. So that's one thing that I'm hoping to do a little bit of around here. And then obviously now, as this is becoming more of a substantial part of my life and my job and my time, I would like to start playing with some more content, different formats, different styles, and I think you, lovely friends, are the perfect people to sort of peer review that sort of thing and tell me, is this interesting? Do you think other people will like this? Is this helpful? Is it educational? Is it possibly going to offend people? Is it too different from what I usually produce, and will it just sort of bore people? I don't know. I'm not actually entirely sure what sort of content that will include, but just throwing that out there, that that's a possibility of things that will come around here. Obviously, what I do primarily over on the YouTube is sewing, constructional video diary process type things, and those things take a very, very long time to produce. Not only does the project itself take about a month or a month and a half or 2, but you know, the videos themselves can take about 3 or 4 days to edit. So it's not something that I can produce weekly, and if people are coming to my channel more regularly and obviously supporting me to do this, I want to be able to produce content on a more regular basis, on a more reliable schedule, and so I would love to try and play with some content that's a bit simpler to produce that I can do whilst I'm working on my sewing projects, so that I can take my time with the sewing, take my time with the research and the stitching and the investigation, and ultimately produce maybe once a month or so a nice, cohesive, and very, very well-researched video on the historical sewing stuff. So things like little technique videos, little, I don't know, like one-day experiments, like my accident cape or the witch hat bonnet type thing. Little things that aren't necessarily historical that I can do quite quickly, possibly by machine, although I wouldn't really consider myself an authority on machine stitching, so I'm not quite sure that that's the type of content I should be producing. But anyway, little things like that that will be interesting and engaging and perhaps inspiring, but not necessarily will take the amount of time that the historical sewing videos do. Obviously, that will of course be the main focus of my channel because historical sewing is my life's blood. It's what I live and breathe. And obviously it is what I do the most with my time because I spend so many hours in a day doing that. So you lovely friends at least will be kept abreast of the historical sewing things that are going on because of course I will be posting regular updates of here's what I'm doing, here's, you know, a thing that I encountered in the process of this thing, here's this brilliant bit of research that I found. And you know, I found that I quite like to post little like blog type post things on this Patreon wall because I know you people actually really care about the level of nerdery that is going on behind the scenes here, and that's really refreshing. So yes, definitely project updates and these little wrap-up things and monthly discussions of the projects that I'm planning to work on. That being said, for the month of January, you may or may not have seen, I've been posting a little bit about it here and on my Instagram as well. Currently I'm working on a pair of late 19th century combinations, which are the chemise and drawers combined into one single undergarment that's worn underneath the corset. Because my projected overall series project is a late 19th century, I think I decided the year is 1892 or 93. For Costume College, I'm working on a very exciting project with Noelle, who is here on the Patreon, I believe. Hello, I'm so excited that you're here and really honored. But we are doing a Lady Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson for Costume College Friday night, and I am so very excited about it. So I'm doing circa 1892 Lady Sherlock Holmes, and I'm so thrilled about that because like it's everything my aesthetic aspires to be. So I will probably actually wear these pieces in real life. The reason I picked 1892, I know Noelle is a bustle girl to heart, so she's going a bit more 80s I believe, but I personally tend to gravitate towards late 90s and Edwardian, but obviously the Sherlock Holmes novels span up through the teens and 20s, I believe, so it's quite a range of possibilities there. But the reason I picked the early 90s is because I'm going to be working on a big corsetry project, because obviously I need to be wearing a corset to get the right late Victorian shape, and I will go into this extremely in the videos because I have quite a process that I need to go through with the corsetry, and this will probably be a several part video series on my journey of building this corset, because maybe or maybe not, you may have noticed I have quite a substantial spinal deformity, which means that I was wearing an orthopedic brace for much of my younger years, and it has sort of done strange things to this area and the way my rib cage is shaped, and I'm very asymmetrical. And what that also means is that I don't trust in the wisdom of wearing a symmetrical corset, just because what that's going to do to my spine is going to cause probably a lot of pain and may not be the best thing for my already sort of struggling skeleton. So I have come up with a vague idea. I've never made a historical corset on my own for myself, especially the 19th century, because 19th century corsetry is an entirely different beast from the earlier stays and bodies, which I have explored a little bit more, obviously, in my career. So yeah, this is going to be a huge learning journey. There's so much information to discuss, to learn about, and to research. Obviously, I will explain this in depth in the actual video itself, but my thought is that because my body is already sort of shaped, just because I started wearing the brace when I was maybe 14 up through about 19, and it was never changed. It's hard plastic, it's sort of a shell, and I'll go into this in greater depth eventually. So my rib cage is sort of permanently formed to that shape of when I was 14 years old, which fortunately means I've got a 24-inch waist, which is well within the average and the desired waist circumference of the 1890s. However, it's sort of Elizabethan in its tubular shape, which means that I haven't got much of that hourglass silhouette that was so sought after in the period. So my thought, my experiment, my grand theory here would be, what would happen if I made a corset that sort of functions as the opposite of what corsets typically do, and that it doesn't cinch down at all, it just sits right at my natural 24-inch waist, but that the rest of the corset, the upper body and the hip area, is padded out to achieve that late 19th century silhouette. And I actually, as you may know, I've been sort of incessantly devouring all of these late 19th century sewing instructionals and teaching manuals and things, and I actually came across a little bit that said it referenced the ideal or the average figure of a woman in that the waist to hip ratio is 10 to 15 inches in difference. Usually, I think nowadays, we're sort of impressed when we've got a 10-inch difference between our waist and our hips, and that's an impressive feat. 10 to 15-inch difference. That's substantial. And anyone who studies corsetry will tell you for a fact that it's not because they're cinching down 15 inches from their hip circumference. It's because they were padding the living daylights out of their corsets, especially in the hip area. So my experiment is going to be to play with this sort of padding technique to get that 19th century silhouette on somebody who can't necessarily achieve that otherwise, I suppose. I know it's a very sort of personal and specific issue to have, and it's not going to be a very widespread, repeatable endeavor that, you know, people will watch the video and say, oh, I'm going to try this for myself, because who else has a body like this? But you know, corsetry is a very personal and individual journey to begin with every person, with every body shape. So I think the video series will just be really a good sort of inspiration and incentive to take the techniques of corsetry and adapt them and apply them to work with the body that you have and then create the silhouette that you want. Because as I was reading these texts, and this was sort of a major like mind blow moment for me, and that I realized that nowadays, of course, we change our clothes to fit our bodies, if that makes sense. Historically, and I think this is pretty ubiquitous throughout all of history, although this is a new concept for me, and I think I have to go do a bit more like close, careful watching and research for this, but people in history created their bodies to suit the fashion, as opposed to adopting the fashion that suits the body, if that makes sense. So for example, if this beautifully hourglass silhouette is the fashion of the late 19th century, whether or not your body actually looked like that, you would adapt your clothing to suit that silhouette. So you would use padding, you would use understructures to sort of create the silhouette that you wanted. I think there's something really to be explored in that, just because like how empowering is it to know that we can actually have control over our bodies? And that's a whole different topic to go down perhaps one day. But anyway, so my point is, the reason I chose 1892-93 is because I've been looking at a lot of the Symington, I'm not sure what the historical pronunciation of that is, the Symington collection of corsets, which if you don't know, they were a corset manufacturing company in the, well, latter half of the 19th century, up through the early 20th century, and the patterns for the corsets that they produced still exist. They're available for free online, and they're a fantastic resource for real primary evidence of corset reproduction. And I know there's sort of the obvious way to go because a lot of people know about the Symington collection and a lot of people reproduce corsets from the Symington collection, and I may of course do a little bit more in-depth research and find a different pattern from a different manufacturer that's less known and less previously done and do that instead, but I don't know, we'll see, we shall see. I'm not quite sure where I'm getting the pattern from yet, basically, but that's where I'm looking so far. I'm also super excited because I'm working with my dear friend Kathy Hay, who runs a website called Foundations Revealed. I don't know, some of you may be on it. I know some of you are on it, and some of you may have heard of it. Or if you haven't, it's basically a membership community for people who are into corsetry, whether it's modern, you know, artistic corsetry or historical reproduction corsetry. And there's also a historical costuming aspect to the website. So she's not sponsoring me to do this, by the way. It's just that I knew that I was starting this corsetry project, and so I just approached her and said, so, when's your next launch? And would you like me to do a little feature on the YouTube? Because I totally will. Also because I wasn't previously a member, like the terrible person that I am, and I knew that if I was going to go this in-depth with the corsetry project, that I'd need to have that resource in my head. So I joined, finally, and it's proven the most invaluable resource. Aside from all of the articles that exist on other people's corsetry experiments and historical techniques and all these little construction and technical things about corset making, they also have these monthly live calls where they have their mentors come on and talk about different topics within corset making, as well as take questions from people on their own sort of troubleshooting areas of their projects. And it's so not only really educational and a good forewarning of me for things that I shouldn't do, or if I encounter this, what should I do about it, but it's literally hours, like days of video. So I have had, of course, more than enough hand sewing entertainment whilst I'm working on these combinations. So I'm learning lots about corsetry now. I'm really excited to get started on this project. I was hoping to have the combinations finished by the end of the year, but That didn't happen. The insertion lace took 4 days to stitch together, which is fine because it looks beautiful and I'm really, really happy with it, but obviously it took longer than anticipated. But that's fine because the actual putting together of the combinations I don't think will be that time consuming, famous last words, but it will also give me a good sewing project to release in January because I don't think the corsetry thing is going to happen until February or March or maybe April. Just because I want to try and coordinate that with Kathy's next launch for membership for Foundations Revealed, because people should be on that website and I want to do everything that I can to help people get there and to help her promote it. So yes, that's what I'm up to in the next month. Lady Sherlock is going to be happening slowly, probably over the course of a couple of months, just because there are a lot of pieces involved. There's the combinations, there's the corset, I think I'm going to cheat and not do a corset cover or a shirtwaist. I've got sort of a Victorian blouse that I can use that's not the stupid H&M one that I wore for the walking skirt, I promise. I haven't decided if I'm going to do a waistcoat and a jacket and then the coat, because you have to have the coat with a little Inverness cape, or whether I'm just going to do a waistcoat with a skirt. A proper walking skirt this time, not an adapted walking skirt. For those of you who are interested in a real historical version, I will be doing that. And then the coat. And the deerstalker, you have to have the Sherlock Holmes hat. So those components will be happening slowly over the course of the next few months. I will also be doing intermittent projects within that. So there's another historical to modern adaptation that I really, really, really have my eyes on that I want to do, although it's more of a spring-summer thing, so that will probably be coming later. And then I have my Friday outfit for Costume College all set to go. It's going to take a long time, which is making me a little bit nervous, but I will also probably need something to wear to the gala on Saturday night, so I haven't really come up with plans for that. The theme is sort of masquerade, which instantly shot me into the hope and dream of finally achieving my goal of reconstructing a sort of Jacobean mask costume for the goddess Artemis. It's something that I've wanted to do for so long, and this is like the perfect opportunity, except it's going to take so long and I have to do it all by hand because it's 17th century, and it's going to be expensive because it's a goddess and will involve silk and sparkly things and crystals, and so I may do a sort of costumized version of that, in that it's inspired by the 17th century mask era and it's inspired by Artemis and celestial things and, you know, stars and stuff, but I may not have the time to do it all by hand and to make the stays and the shift and the bum roll and all the structural things that really will make it 17th century. So I may just do a little costumey version of it, which could be fun. It could be something different. I did, after all, train as a costume designer, so maybe it would be nice to sort of exhibit that that's possible. Yeah, so we shall see. If you have something that you would like me to do, suggestions for this gala thing, then feel free to contribute that. I have officially become the Costume College trash that I used to sort of internally laugh at everybody else for being. What happened? Anyway, so yeah, those are the sewing project plans for the immediate future, and for the semi-distant future, I will keep you up to date as to how I'm making progress and what gets finished, what still has to be done. In the meantime, I have stacks and stacks and stacks of nice little written thank you notes that will be on their way to you shortly. Hopefully they'll all reach you okay, although with percentages of what gets lost and what doesn't. Do let me know in about 2 or 3 weeks if you haven't received it, and I'll send you another one because I don't like things to get lost. I'm now officially, as of January 1, starting with all of this Patreon business type stuff, and so we'll be working out how all of this is going to work, what sorts of content I'm producing and sending out to you all. I will disclaim that things may shift around a bit, just as I figure out what I have time for and all that sort of stuff. I want to say that as of today, January 1, if you are on a specific tier, I will fulfill the rewards for that tier. And so if I have to change anything in future, you will at least have gotten what you initially signed up for, because that's important. But I shall keep you up to date and I shall let you know what's going on. I think it's going to work out just okay. All of this has turned out way more successful than I anticipated it being, and I think I'm going to be able to devote quite a significant amount of time to the YouTube stuff and to the Patreon stuff in the coming year. We shall see how that goes, and we shall see how that progresses. You could all get very bored and leave, and you're welcome to do that. And I will get on with my life, or it could only grow, and I will leave off all of my side projects and just sit here on camera and sew and talk to you all every day of my life, because How fun would that be? For those of you on the tiers that qualify for mailing of sketches upon project completion, just in case this wasn't clear and in case you haven't deduced this from all of the things I was describing previously, the sketches won't be monthly just because I don't necessarily produce a project monthly. So for example, with the Lady Sherlock project, there will be a sketch for that. However, I won't be sketching individually the combinations, the corset, the shirtwaist, the waistcoat, the coat. It will just be one sketch that will embody the entire look, and that will be a nice, pretty, arty thing that I will send out to everybody. I will be doing technical flats, technical drawings, probably of the corset and the waistcoat, just because those won't be seen on the sketch, and I will need to know what those are. So I don't know if that's something you're interested in. Usually they're not arty and pretty. Yeah, I don't know, we shall see. But obviously that's a project that will take several months to complete, and I'm not going to wait 6 months to send you something. So, as I mentioned, I will have other quicker projects happening. I will have historical to modern adaptations. Those are things that don't take very long and that do warrant sketches. So those will definitely be going out before Lady Sherlock, probably. This is what I go through every time I film a video. I live above a firehouse, so this is sort of inevitable. Anyway, if I have a project that's taking a significant amount of time, obviously I don't want to go more than 3 months without sending you something because that seems a little bit scarce, so I will probably just send you something else fun. If you don't know, I am also partly a freelance illustrator, so I've got lots of little cards and ink drawings and arty non-costume specific things up on my Etsy account and sort of in my stash of previous work that, you know, it's fun. It's not related to the sewing content that I'm producing, but it might just be nice to send out with a little note if things are going a bit slower than anticipated. So yeah, let me know if that's of interest. I'm sort of having a little internal dilemma because I am of the understanding that people enjoy receiving free stuff. This is a concept entirely foreign and mind-blowing to me because obviously, as I live in Manhattan and I live in a room, one does not typically have space for excess things, and I have a very vehement distaste for excess things that aren't directly of use. And so if I were a patron of someone, I would not want to be sent extraneous things that I don't need. So yeah, let me know. Your feedback is always welcome. I would love to know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are on all of these reward type things, and if there's anything that is of interest to you that I haven't thought of that I'm not offering. Yeah, all of this Patreon business, it's only been up for less than a month, and so it's all very still in flux, very malleable. You are the lovely, wonderful opening testing bunch, and I very much value your feedback, your opinions, and you should have a say in what goes on around here. So yeah, I hope you all had a nice New Year's Eve, and I hope most fervently that you are destined to have a very wonderful and successful and prosperous and productive and healthy and happy, most importantly, new year. Let me know what your project plans are. If you want to start a discussion in the Discord of, you know, I'm thinking about doing this and I don't know where to start, let me know. Just let me know. If you have any thoughts, let me know. We'll make it happen. Anyway, yeah, so I am going to go get back to work. I think my tea is sufficiently cooled off now. Turn the heating back on because it's cold and I have to turn it off because my microphone hates heating and air conditioning and phones and computers and Wi-Fi and just its life in general. And yeah, happy sewing, and I shall see you very soon. Look out for things in the post from me, and we shall speak soon. Okay, bye. Ugh.